Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now, obviously it would be naive of me or rest of us to think that everyone here that watches any of the videos that I do is a truther. But as I've demonstrated in the past, I certainly do not have any time for any guilters that are disrespectful. So just be warned, if you're going to make comments, then stick to being respectful. Because we're truthers and we are proud of the fact that the truth will put those responsible for the disappearance of Teresa Halbach behind bars. We're absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. However, some guilters need a bit longer to realise the truth. And hopefully Making a Murderer Series 2, which is coming out it's about 22, 23 days now, so not long to wait. But some of them, as I say, some guilters do need a little more time to arrive at their own conclusions about the guilt and innocence of various people involved in this case. Somebody that I do, however, chat with regularly is a gentleman from Canada called Thomas Hens. I think possibly one of the reasons why we do like to debate, and rest assured, we do debate, is the fact that he's in Scotland, he's in Canada, and I'm in Scotland. So we're not coming at it from the point of view of being either in Wisconsin, or Manitowoc, Calumet, or anywhere in the United States. We come from it from a completely different perspective. You know, that there's no sort of biased opinion to begin with. But as I say, his opinion is completely opposed to mine. He believes that Brendan is completely innocent and that Steve is completely guilty. Where, of course, I believe that Stephen is 100% innocent and that Brendan is completely guilty. Only kidding, only kidding. Don't worry, I knew what I was saying there. No, I believe in the innocence of both Steve and Brendan, 100%. I find it ironic and laughable at times that some people who have watched some of these little 30-minute programs, biased and incorrect programs about Stephen Avery and Brendan being guilty, have based their assumption on a 30-minute program and then sometimes criticise people who have watched Making a Murderer, saying, well, all you've watched is a documentary. Well, let's put the record straight. It's a documentary that is 10 one-hour-long episodes. We've watched 10 hours worth, and then we've gone and done our own research in the case. I know that the dude Eric Jose gets particularly irritated at people who say to him, oh, you've just watched a documentary, and you think of the hours and hours that he's spent doing research and videos and chatting to people. Anyway, so let's face one or two truths about the case. You know, some things that we know now that we didn't know when we first started watching. And also, was Making a Murderer biased? Well, absolutely, 100% not. Are we glad that we didn't hear more from Sweaty? Absolutely. As far as I'm concerned, we had too much of him. But remember, the filmmakers were there, embedded with the defence. So of course we get a lot of interviews, we get a lot of opinions from the defence side of things. Not just Dean and Jerry, but some excellent bits from likes of Conrad Pete Bates, and obviously then later on we get Laura and Steve Drizin, and we get to hear, as I say, quite a bit from interviews that they've done with, for example, the family as well. But we don't, fortunately, get too much of Kratz and Co. But as I say, that's surely not a bad thing. But what they were there to do was simply show what was happening at the time. They didn't make a biased programme. Of course, the defence are looking at it from the point of their point of view as being the defence. But Making a Murderer, all it showed was what the defence did. And I appreciate that for some people that was quite unusual to have a documentary from the point of view of the defence, because most programmes are apparently are to do with the convicting of somebody that's guilty, and sometimes, you know, the convicting of somebody who's trying to sort of wriggle out of that conviction. And obviously in the case of OJ, somebody that was successful in wriggling out of what should have been a conviction. But certainly Making a Murderer, episode 1, certainly wasn't biased. And we're certainly looking forward to part 2, when I say hopefully there'll be the things covered in part 2 that will make the guilters think, maybe there's more to this than we thought. One more board. Now, let's just make this absolutely clear, please. Please, I am not criticising Dean Strang or Jerry Buetinger. I've never criticised them. I've simply asked questions to which eventually other people or myself have come up with answers. That's all I've ever done. And remember that, you know, they had 240,000 to defend Stephen Avery. And that, in actual fact, is not a lot at all in comparison with, well, for example, what Mike Peterson cost to try and defend himself. You know, how much did it cost OJ? Well, we're not too sure if he actually paid all of his lawyers. I believe some of them are still waiting on being paid. But then you look at the amount of money that the state can throw at trying to convict somebody. So I mean, no, Dean and Jerry, I don't think they did a bad job at all. And I'll get onto something else in a minute. One of the things that they were hamstrung about was the fact that because the investigation did not take in-depth statements from all the other potential suspects, it's covered by the fact that they then couldn't go down that road because the investigation never went down that road. So it was very difficult for them to present any other suspects. Did they do anything wrong? Well, they've admitted that yes, of course they did, because you know that part of Zellner's motion is ineffective counsel, and I've seen videos where the pair of them have said yes, of course we're not perfect. That there were things that we did that we could have done differently. And I mean, let's face it, they're not the only ones. You know, even Ken Kratz has admitted that he wouldn't have done the press conference again. And we've got Tom Fassbender admitting on TV that, you know, he's not sure if Brendan did some of what he said he did. And if he's not sure of some of it, then what bits is he sure of? You know, it's a bit stupid of Tom Fassbender to say that. During questioning, during cross-examination, Dean Strang does a wonderful job of tearing Andy Colburn to shreds. But it was strange how, when it came to Tom Sturdivant, who admits that it's his fault and he should take the criticism of there being no photographs, and Dean says, well, I'm not here to criticise you in cross-examination. And I even checked to find out, is there some protocol here, you know? But no, it was simply the fact that he wasn't wanting to criticise Tom Sturdivant. And I can't think that that's some sort of pecking order. You know, it was easier to go after Manitowoc than it is to go after the Department of Justice, because the Department of Justice is answerable to Fallon and Pegg, and we've heard a lot about the sort of friendship between Strang and Fallon. I'm quite happy to accept that that's purely on a professional basis. They've probably crossed swords in other cases, And win, lose or draw, it doesn't matter, okay? So, as I say, I'm not here to criticise the original defence lawyers at all. But now we know, or at least I think we do know, that the blood vial defence, the idea that blood was taken from that, was not correct. That in fact it was blood that was taken from Stephen's sink, and it was only recently that obviously we read in Zellner's motion that we heard testimony from an affidavit from Stephen that explained about the opening the cut as he was unhitching a trailer, bleeding, blood in the Trans Am, going to his house, blood in the sink, mopped up the next day, smell of cigarettes, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so we found out quite a bit. So yeah, with the benefit of hindsight, that maybe wasn't the best course of action. Although, I'm not for one moment defending Mark Lebeau, or whatever his name was, because to come up with a EDTA test in a matter of weeks, everybody knows that these tests have to be validated. People throughout the world have to do the same tests, get the same results before you can then say that is validated. But as I say, Stalker, whatever his name is, Nick Stalker, the blood fence, the blood splatter evidence, that has been completely destroyed by Kathleen Zellner's blood expert. As I say, I do feel that there was a certain pecking order going on in this case. Anyway, looking forward, going to Amsterdam in early December, and by then, Eric Jose should have had his T-shirts, because they will have been delivered. They're being delivered by Pushbike, which reminds me of that well-known Polish saying, "Moja trawna koszarka jest szybsza niż twoja maszyna," which translated means, "My lawnmower is faster than your bike." Bye for now.